Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day off. And it's not really off, right? Because you're watching this video. And hopefully you read the announcement and you know that you are reading Myers, How Groups Intensify Opinions. This is my copy. I've gone through and highlighted and annotated. And that's what the quiz is based off of, things that I thought were important. And then also, right, part of today's out of class time is spending 30 minutes doing something that promotes your own mental health. For me, it's listening to music, which I have paused for the purposes of these videos, and my pipe. So that's what I've been up to. And yeah, so game plan for this video is to go over what I put in the announcement, talk about what's due on Tuesday and over the weekend, and then kind of just briefly talk about the recursive process. Yeah, so it should be nice, short, sweet. Hopefully I can figure out how to upload this. There's some technical issues we could run into. Anyway, so what I put in the announcement, which hopefully you all, read. The fact that you're reading this means you probably are. But basically, because of just kind of the rampant illness and I think a general mood of being very stressed. I think there's a lot of people who are affected by seasonal affective disorder, and the lack of vitamin D isn't doing anyone any favors. So because tomorrow is going to be very cold and very gray, I thought this might be a good opportunity to allow those who are not feeling well to participate in a class while still being inside if they need to be. So that doesn't mean I need your participation any less. I don't cut slack without expecting it to be made up somewhere else. Tuesday is going to be very heavy discussion based, and I expect you all to be able to pull your weight. We're going to talk about the recursive process. We're going to talk about arguments, and especially in the context, right, of the project that y'all are working on, the project proposal, the pitch. We're going to talk about creating a pitch a little bit more, and this will be in context of the stuff you watch over the weekend. So what you need to do over the weekend is watch the video. The Shark Tank reviews their favorite pitches. It's like an 11-minute video from Vanity Fair, and it has little clips that are both good and bad from some different pitches that they liked or found memorable. And I want you to use that as a jumping off place to go find a full-length episode of Shark Tank and watch it and note at least 5 qualities of the pitch and whether or not each of those qualities are good or bad, and how or whether you would like to implement them in your own pitch. So if you are familiar with Shark Tank, you want to watch an episode you haven't seen before, that's fine. Choose literally any episode as long as it's full length of Shark Tank. But if you're having trouble thinking of one, the ones in this Vanity Fair video will help you kind of pick one and choose. So watch that video, 11-minute video, watch the full-length episode of Shark Tank, and outline their argument. I would like for you to write out what you understood their argument to be, and then 5 qualities of how they presented that argument, how they gave their pitch, right, that were either good or bad. And, right, probably use language more along the lines of things that were done well and things that could be improved upon. We will divide up on Tuesday into non-peer groups, so not the same people that you've been working with all semester, in order to get some feedback, hopefully diversify what kind of qualities y'all are talking about, and then you can bring everything you learn back to your peer group. I'd also like you to read chapter 15 in the... Get off of my computer. Okay. There's a bug. Anyway, chapter 15 in the Town Branch book. So that's on how to make your own documentary. And I would like for you to come with a question, if you have any. And I think that it's a good chapter, but there's plenty to kind of extrapolate out of it and talk about. And it's good information. So I will have expected you to have read it. So please read it. And also come with questions. I want to clarify whatever you might not have understood. So that's what's due over the weekend by Tuesday. Again, I pushed vlog number 6 to next week. So we will work on that next week. You don't need to worry about uploading it on Sunday. All this information is, of course, on the tentative schedule and also in the announcement. That being said, moving back to the announcement, watching this video is a requirement. Yes, watching this video is a requirement. There are questions about it on the quiz, and doing the reading by Myers, How Groups Intensify Opinions, is also required. There's a quiz, makes up the bulk of the quiz online. Additionally, I need you to take 30 minutes and do something to promote your own mental health. If this is not something you do regularly, that's fine. This is a really great chance to explore what that might look like for you. This could be taking 30 minutes to meditate or to sit in silence, sit in one spot and just kind of have a peaceful time. You can have tea or whatever promotes that for you. And so that's one idea. You could also call your mom or write in your journal. Play an instrument that maybe you don't take a lot of time for normally. Whatever it is, I want you to take 30 minutes and do that. This is important. I know it seems superfluous. I know it can seem kind of like an easy thing to brush off, but this is your education, and you need to be able to balance your education with who you are as a person, and that includes having mental health. If you're distracted trying so hard to survive and patch up how you're feeling and your own mental health, you're not going to be able to absorb as much of the education that you're paying a lot of money for. So there is also a question on the quiz about that. So that is all summarized in the announcement, and should answer any questions on the quiz. So now moving to the recursive process, right? The word recursive means characterized by recurrence or repetition. Recursive means characterized by recurrence or repetition. And so when we think about the recursive process of writing, we think about this idea that there are steps to writing, but you don't go 1 through 5 and then you're done. You have the perfect paper. You have 100, easy. Because it doesn't work like that. I think writing can always be better. And that's one of the great things about writing, is that there's always something else to do with it. And so the recursive process means once you go through, you go back and you revisit these editing or revision processes. So the writing process starts with pre-writing, which is you taking the time to think and decide what you're going to talk about. You're going to make sure you understand the assignment. You're going to decide on a topic to talk about. You're going to consider your audience. You're going to brainstorm ideas about your subject. This is all stuff that you do before you sit down to write. After that, you research, right? You do the research, you find information, you make an outline to organize your research, you compile it, you pull out the good quotes, you discard things that aren't as useful. Then you move on to drafting, and that's just the writing. It is you sitting down with pen and page or your laptop, and you write on the topic until you have said everything you want to say about the topic. You read it again, and then you write some more. You add in comments or side but like bunny trails maybe that are ended up being edited out later, but you say everything you can think of to say on the process or on the topic first. And then you revise it, right? You make it better. You read what you've written again. You say it out loud. You take out parts. You maybe add in parts. You rearrange paragraphs. You rearrange ideas. You rearrange even sentences or word order. This can be very big picture. It can also be microscopic in the kind of changes you're making. You want to read it out loud. That is, I think, a very important part of the recursive process, is reading it out loud and hearing what you have to say and going, nope, that's not what I have in mind. That's not how I want to say it. That doesn't come across the way I want to say it. There's got to be a better way to word it. And once you have all of your ideas in the right order, right? You have revised it to where all your ideas are doing good. Then you're going to edit and proofread. And this is more mechanical. This is more, this is punctuation. This is spelling. This is capitalization. This is making sure if you're using the term World War I in your paper, you go through and it looks the same throughout, whether it's WW capital I or World War I spelled out, or WW number 1, or whatever you choose to do, it's consistent all the way through. You change words that are unclear. You make sure you use the appropriate formatting. So you change the font and you change the size to whatever's required. You make sure your MLA 8 citations are what they need to be, etc., and so on. So that is the recursive process in a nutshell. And hopefully that is clear, right? That is what you go through. And then once you have it done, you show it to someone else, right? And then they go through the revision, editing, and proofreading steps. And you just kind of stay there in that writing, revising, and editing again and again until you turn it in or you reach a point of completion that you are satisfied with. You can always revisit, you can always edit more, but in general, you'll reach a point where you have to turn it in. And the more times you've made it through that revision, editing, and proofreading process, the better. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that isn't terribly confusing. So that is the recursive process. And as far as kind of like how that fits in to argumentative writing, there's also a recursivity to making an argument. When you create an argument and you're like, yes, X plus Y equals Z times whatever, times squared divided by whatever, then this is what we get. Like, this is my argument. And like, yeah, there's caveats and blah, 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 but this is my argument. And you talk about it, you figure it out. And then you show it to someone else and they're like, okay, but what about this? And you have to add in a different element and you have to figure out how to incorporate it. Or maybe you have to pare it down. You have to make it more specific. Maybe your argument is too broad. Maybe your argument is way too narrow. Perhaps you're complicating it, or you're not including a really important detail. No matter what it is, there's still a recursivity, right? You have to revisit the process of finding an argument and figuring out how to write about that argument in the best way. And so that is an important element of the recursive process. So I would highly suggest that over the weekend, you and your group start coming up with a very rough outline. Put a Google Doc together, have everyone be able to comment on it and add to it, but create an outline, something, right? You have to have something in order to edit it. And so go ahead, and I think you would be well served to start the Google Doc over the weekend, right? Put in the barest bones outline, right? Introduction, body, conclusion, and let everyone just add an element as they think of them. I think that this will really help, and it'll probably be pretty clear in the final or next week, especially, who has taken the time to set up something to then edit. So that's my recommendation. But first and foremost, I hope that you take 30 minutes to have that mental health. And I hope that you enjoy the reading. I think Myers has something really interesting to say, especially since we're talking about stakeholders and we've been talking about groups of people who think certain ways. And we're thinking of our target audience, right? How all these people were all the people that were our target audience, people we're presenting to, right? How do we play into the group dynamics of the people that we're presenting our documentary to? Anyway, that is all for me. And I look forward to hearing about how you all spend your time. And I hope that you all stay warm and are doing well. And I will see you on Tuesday for a rousing and lively discussion.